for joining Fight CPS and Win. Today, I'm bringing forward some details from my own personal story, and Mr. Davis is here to actually interview me today. First, I want to thank you, Mr. Davis, for allowing me and extending the opportunity to host the show. And I know you have a very busy day, but I don't know if you've ever been able to view some of the shows that we've done so far, but we've had a story where a judge gave a stranger known pedophile temporary custody and the safe bio dad was only allowed phone calls. We had another educational neglect case where kids were taken away, and I went to visit the parents' home and they had 20 to 30 3-inch binders of the child's work product from their homeschooling. We also interviewed about a case of a known sex offender being hired to work for CPS as an attorney, who then did traffic a child in DSS custody. He pled guilty to 8 felony charges of rape and only got 6 months of jail. And another case of an attorney divorcing an attorney, and her kids were running away to her, claiming abuse by the father and sent back to live with the abuser. So I don't know if you had time to watch any of these shows, but New York is really bad. And I don't know what states you work in, but New York needs you.
Be happy to come out there.
Yeah.
Well, tell me something, Stacy. What's going on with your case?
So my ex is an attorney, and he used to be an attorney for CPS as well. In fact, the same CPS where the sex offender was hired and pled guilty to 8 felony charges of rape. And that attorney was also involved in my case as well. My kids disclosed sex abuse and strangulation, and the court awarded the father custody.
I remember the details.
So, unfortunately, the newer development, it's really something that's deep and it's heavy. And I think most people would not bring this to light or share it in the public. But then, as I am conflicted about the situation, that makes me feel an obligation to let the public know what's happening even more. Because if we all remain silent about how bad these things are, then people don't really know what we're paying CPS to do, what we think they're doing, as opposed to what they're really doing. So, as a result of what I think is a result of my son's victimization, because he made his sex abuse disclosures when he was 6.5, 7 years old to the pediatrician, to the attorney for children and such. At that point, he started having behavioral changes, more violent, and he developed sexualized behaviors. And he's now 16. So between the age of 6.5 and now 16, he has a pervasive history of being violent and having sexualized behaviors. At the age of 7, he was taking nude photographs of his younger sisters. When he was 9, he was forcing them to play a sexy game and wouldn't let them get off his lap. The father permitted him to watch things like Slender Man and Freddy despite his behavioral disturbances. He's threatened many times since the age of 7 to kill his sisters. There was a police report from March of 2022 where he was threatening to kill his sister and break her jaw. He made a school shooter post in April of 2019. And just now, the newer development is he was arrested for aggravated harassment and sending sexually explicit images to a girl that were unwanted. And he's also showed up to her residence and has refused to leave, and she's in fear for her physical well-being because of my son. And I'm really conflicted. This is really heavy. Nobody even told me this was going on. The father is, by the custodial agreement, supposed to let me know if anything's important. And I can't say what he thinks is important or not, but maybe he doesn't think aggravated harassment is important, but I think it's pretty important. The police seem to think it's important, and the child thinks it's important. I found out just May 15th because they're petitioning what is in New York State in Article 3 to deem him a juvenile delinquent. And I'm really conflicted because all this time he's been with his father, he's never been held accountable for his actions. The father has refused to take him for treatment because of his behaviors. The father has been indicated 4 times by Erie County CPS 3 of those indications were about our son. 2 indications were for inadequate guardianship. One was for lack of medical care because of my son's behaviors that the father never addressed. And I just feel like the whole system has failed my son. And I feel conflicted because he's emerging into adulthood. He should be responsible for his behaviors. But I have diligently reported all of these things every step of the way to authorities, to school counselors, to the attorney for children, to the courts. And every step of the way, the dime has fallen through the cracks, and nobody has intervened on my son's behalf to help him.
How do you know no one's interviewed him
Interviewed him in terms of the sexual abuse,
to help him in any way?
um, because that's what the indication from CPS was the father's failure to bring him for counseling and so forth.
But you indicated that no one has interviewed him. I mean, you wouldn't know necessarily if a social worker or somebody interviewed the child.
Oh, in terms of interviewed, okay. Well, I have the records from Niagara County CPS, and they're unredacted. And my kids disclosed to Niagara County CPS strangulation and sex abuse by their father. Unfortunately, the court forensic called the police and CPS, and I have this record as well, and advised them not to re-interview my children from his interview and requested the police do not talk to my kids about their disclosures. And subsequently, the police closed their investigation and CPS canceled the referral to the Child Advocacy Center for the multidisciplinary investigation.
Why was that done?
Um, well, if you ask my opinion, corruption. It's a cover-up scandal to me.
But who's implementing this cover up?
I think that they're working in concert because the father is an attorney and he was an attorney for Niagara County CPS. And you see where this other guy was hired as a known sex offender and the response is so minimal. He has 8 felony charges and he gets 6 months in jail.
What was he charged with specifically?
Um, they were all rape crimes. The one child was 16 that he raped. And she was allegedly a ward of the state in DSS custody.
Why did he only get 6 months? I don't understand.
Well, none of us understand that. I interviewed a girl on your show, Tiffany Hughes, who is a victim of 3 Niagara County CPS attorneys, one being Nicholas D'Angelo, who is the one
Well,
with the 8 felony charges, um, one being my ex, and one being another attorney. But when she was 16, she was captured by a pedophile who was 44. And when he beat her in front of the kids, Niagara County CPS, with my ex involved, told her, we'll drop your indication for domestic violence occurring in front of the kids if you give custody basically to the pedophile. So the only way she could see her kids was if she moved back in with him.
and is that what she did?
Yeah. It's terrible. Like if you talk to her, her history, if she wanted deodorant, she had to have sex with the pedophile guy. If she had things that the kids needed, she had to have sex with the pedophile guy. When she was pregnant, she wasn't allowed to have lunch money because he didn't want her to leave. She wasn't allowed to learn how to drive. It was a horrible, horrible existence. He was a drug addict. She was not. She always stayed clean. But he, would pass out. He would get in all of these problems because of his drug history.
Where is she? I'd like to talk to her.
Okay, yeah. She, like I said, I interviewed her on your show, and I'm in regular contact with her.
Okay. Please give her my office number.
Yeah.
So the new information in your case is, in one sentence, what is it?
My son being arrested for sending sexually explicit images to a child, another girl. He's 16. So he got charged with aggravated harassment.
And does he have a criminal case that's going on?
I all as I know right now, the police didn't tell me anything, CPS didn't tell me anything, the father didn't tell me anything. The only thing I know is tomorrow there's a hearing for juvenile delinquent.
Are you going to that?
Yes. And oddly, nobody notified me of anything, but yet they put on the petition that I'm a custodial parent responsible for his actions.
But you aren't a custodial parent, are you?
No.
Have you actually seen the charges that were filed against him?
I only saw what was written in the juvenile delinquent petition, and it's aggravated harassment. And then just a couple of statements about, basically that he was sending the images and that he was showing up at the girl's house and wouldn't leave when she asked him to on a couple of occasions, and she was in fear for her physical safety. I've
Hmm.
asked the police for the records, and I did in a way saying that, so that I'm not prejudiced basically when I appear tomorrow, and they still never sent me anything.
I'm going to be surprised if they even let you in the courtroom.
I did file an affidavit to the case, and they sent it back, and I filed it again.
Affidavit saying what?
Basically, that his history and that he disclosed sex abuse as a child, and that I want him to be evaluated because of his behaviors to see if, in fact, he was abused as a child by his father.
Do you know who his attorney is?
Yes, he has an attorney for children who is also not returning my calls. And I also corrected the record in my affidavit stating that I'm not the custodial parent responsible for his conduct. The father is, and the father should be held responsible as well. This should be another indication with CPS for lack of care and inadequate guardianship. Um, and, I put that I've been diligent in trying to get Leo help all this time.
And very interesting development. Is your ex still working for CPS?
He is a Niagara County public defender now.
And he was a prosecutor before?
Yeah. The other thing, too, you should know is everybody involved in our custody situation. The judge, for example, recused due to familiarity with the father, but yet she's maintaining the case for his juvenile delinquency. And the other issue is the father used to work for Niagara County CPS, and that's who's involved now, inexplicably unfounding everything. And it used to go to Erie County CPS because of conflict of interest, and they resumed maintaining his investigations.
Well, is your son being defended by the public defender's office?
I'm sorry?
Is your son being defended by the public defender's office?
Um, I don't know. Um, and um, I don't know who my son's counsel is. I just know he has the attorney for children. I know that it's a Niagara County assistant attorney that's bringing the case against my son, which
Do
again
you
would be
think
technically a
do you think
coworker.
CPS is somehow involved in this?
Do I think? I'm sorry, it's going fuzzy.
We're having some technical problems with audio. I have high speed access. How's your internet access?
I think it's okay. Um, it's just it sounds fuzzy to me, but I don't know.
Okay. Hmm. I'm going to try to log off and log back on.
Okay.
Why don't you try to do the same thing?
Okay.
Testing. Hey, Grace. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Look, I think Stacy was having some technical difficulties. Hopefully, she's going to log back on. This is How to Fight CPS and Win, the New York edition. Grace, I think that we do me a favor and call Stacy and see if she's logging back in. In the interim, I will play a short video. Oh, this particular, there are no videos on this one. Hey, Grace, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Do me a favor and call Stacy and see if she's going to log back in, okay?
Okay, noted on that.
So, folks, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, we're having some technical difficulties, and the host of the show, Miss Stacy, hopefully she's going to be logging back in. So give us a few moments, please. Okay, Stacy, that sounds much better.
Yes.
Okay, so what were you saying?
Where were we at? Oh, you were asking me if you felt if something was involved, and I didn't get who you were asking if they were involved.
If your ex, the public defender, if him or his office are defending your son.
Right. Yeah, I don't know who's representing my son. I didn't see. I just saw that there was an attorney for children involved, and I saw that the attorney bringing the case is a Niagara County assistant attorney, and yeah, assistant Niagara County attorney. And I didn't see anyone listed who was defending my son.
It would almost be a conflict for the public defender to represent him, right? Because his father works for the public defender's.
I think all of it's a conflict because Niagara County being involved at all have a ulterior motive to put all the blame on my son and make him appear deviant, because that would minimize their exposure to litigation, that it's actually their fault for not intervening and protecting my son all these years.
Wouldn't that be interesting if all this comes to light?
Well, that's the thing. And I feel like this child who's a victim of my son should know that the system failed everyone and caused this to happen as well. They have culpability in this. They've known all this time. I've seen multiple cases with much less evidence than mine where they substantiated that the father sexually abused the children.
Your case gets more and more complicated as time goes on. What county is this again?
Niagara County, it's just outside of Buffalo, New York.
How far from, does Buffalo have an international airport?
Yeah, international, no, but an airport, yes. Like usually we fly people to JFK and then go international, but Buffalo has an airport, yes.
How far from JFK is the courthouse that you go to?
JFK, like 4 or 5 hours. Yeah. But I mean, if you were coming from California, you would fly to Buffalo.
Oh, I would?
Yeah.
They have airlines like United,
Yeah.
Delta.
Yeah.
How far is um, from Buffalo Airport to the courthouse that you're in?
30 minutes.
Okay, so close.
Yes.
Okay. So I think I want to continue this interview after tomorrow, after you go to court. So you see what happens. Right now you're just up in the air. You don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Actually, I missed a book. It's not tomorrow, it's Thursday. But
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Yeah. I just
Okay.
remembered.
Now, let me ask you something. Have you ever talked to any attorneys in New York about bringing some type of civil rights lawsuit?
I don't know if you remember, but I did one back in 2017. But what happened there too, I think, is another corruption issue. At the time, the federal judge remanded the case to Supreme Court, and on the eve of the deadline to bring the case to Supreme Court, the attorney that said he was going to do it all of a sudden said he wasn't doing it. And I just feel like he probably got bribed not to, in all honesty.
What makes you think he was bribed?
Because now that I know what I know, a lot of his conduct was not ethical. And I also know that my attorney at the time was being approached at her gym by the opposing counsel.
What do you mean approached?
Well, the attorney representing me for the civil case was Jewish, but I mean, all sorts of people go to the Jewish Community Center, but she was going to the JCC, and she's like, you wouldn't believe it, but opposing counsel showed up at my gym. So it gave me the impression that that was not a normal experience for her. And then shortly after, she, um, was trying to convince me that I didn't have enough proof to show a conspiracy. And then the case got remanded to Supreme Court, and she didn't argue to keep it in federal court. And then the guy who said he would take it to the Supreme Court, he never did a retainer with me, but he billed me $10,000, things like that.
Have you ever written everything down like in a book format?
I know you asked me if you told me I should publish a book. I mean, I have everything written down, believe me, but in a published book, not yet.
Do you have a story or a draft that you could email me so I could read it?
I can certainly give you an outline.
Outline won't mean anything to me. I need a
Okay.
story. I
All
need a
right.
story.
All right.
How long do you think that would take?
Well, I'll just put myself to it.
Is it going to be a week, a month, 6 months? Give me a deadline. It means nothing unless we have a deadline.
Okay. I will tell you that right now I have to do a reply brief for an appeal. And
What are you doing an appeal for? What kind of case do you have going on?
it's like so terrible. So I've had 9 judges recused or disqualified from my case in Niagara County, and they won't give me a change of venue. So one of the issues is I don't feel I've ever had a fair forum. They precluded me from filing in court, saying that my litigation is meritless and frivolous, despite my ex having 4 CPS indications. They denied my orders of protection. They denied my application for custody. Those are the issues basically for this appeal.
Okay. Well, when do you think you'll be able to have it?
Um, give me 2 weeks.
Okay, that's more than fair.
I mean, I don't want to write like a book, because dear God, I mean, I know you're busy. So
No, I need you to write a book.
a book,
Hmm. Because if I'm going to help you in the future, perhaps civilly, I'm going to need to know everything.
All right. All right. Then give me a month.
Okay. Okay, that'll be fine. And then I can find out everything in black and white.
I'll even publish it to hardcover for you.
No, you don't have to do that. Just send me the draft. Let me read it.
I used to publish books for my kids when they were little.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, instead of keeping a photo album, I published books on one of the self-publishing websites.
And to me, that's the best way.
Yeah, because then it's not just pictures. There's narratives that go with things so they know what they were.
Right. Did you put it on Amazon as well?
I never put it on Amazon. I used Blurb, honestly. It's blurb.com. And because they're family, but I did put them on there for family to be able to view or purchase them if they wanted their own. But
Okay. Well, I can't wait to read your work of art. It's almost it's an incredible story.
it's a problem here. One of my friends is a former consultant for the FBI, and I'm sure I'm going to get his saying wrong, but at least I'm getting the gist of it here. But he says the saying is one time is a one-off. I think the second time is like coincident. There's no coincidences, and the third time it's a pattern. And one of the things I guess I've kind of learned is that the states that are the worst are those that border another country. So California is typically bad, New York is typically bad, Texas is typically bad. And even though Florida doesn't border another country, it's still close. So Florida is typically bad. And we're very close to the Canadian border. And you have 3 Niagara County CPS attorneys. If you watch the video of Tiffany Hughes with me, you have my ex, who Tiffany says was involved in her case where her children went to the custody of the pedophile. And my ex also represented a foster parent who was dating a Niagara County CPS attorney. And that Niagara County CPS attorney was bragging with her girlfriend that they could cherry pick whatever kids that they wanted. And then that foster parent ended up being a pedophile and sexually abusing their 16-year-old foster child. And so that's one attorney. Then you have the case of Nicholas D'Angelo, who was hired knowing he's a sex offender, with that being public information. When he was 17 or 16, he sexually assaulted a 14-year-old girl in a school hallway. And they hired him. Now he's pled guilty to 8 felony charges of rape and is doing 6 months. And then you have my ex. So that's 3 Niagara County CPS attorneys. And technically that's a pattern of sex trafficking children under color of law through CPS.
Well, I would definitely like to speak to those victims and the people that you've had on your show, to see if they might be interested in pursuing matters further. So please talk to them for me, okay?
I'm sure Tiffany would.
Okay.
I can't speak for her, but her
Yeah.
life has been made very difficult. And some of her statements of things that happened with CPS involvement, like, for example, when her son recorded her ex being so high, he fell off the couch and almost fell on the kids. And the police came and there was like some altercation or something. And the son recorded it and gave it to the police. And CPS unfounded the father through all of that, but the police continued with the charges. And, CPS has the lower threshold of required evidence, but criminally he was charged.
And what happened in that criminal case?
Finally, she got custody of her kids. They're thriving compared to how they were doing in
Hold
the
on.
father.
I asked you a very specific question.
Sorry.
What happened in that criminal case?
Oh, yeah. So in the father, so he was charged, and what was his ultimate?
Yeah.
I can't remember what they gave him, honestly. But he was definitely charged, and there was definitely follow through on it and some sort of finding. But I
Too
don't
general.
remember.
Too general.
Yeah.
Can you go to the court and pull the file and look at it?
Yeah. Sure.
Can you do that? You can't do it today, but can you do it tomorrow?
Well, why don't I just do it when I go to court on the 25th?
Well, we're procrastinating one day, I guess.
Yeah. I have to go. You know what? I have to go to the police station today too.
I know.
Somebody stole my license plate from my truck, and
But hold on. Can you look up criminal cases online in your county? Because
well, that's what I was wondering.
you can in LA.
I'll definitely contact Tiffany and find out where to find the information, and then I'll get it.
Okay, very good. And then maybe I want you to talk to Grace and to my office about having me back with you on Thursday or Friday after you go to court.
Okay.
All right, Stacy?
Yes.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And I look forward
Likewise.
to talking to you on Thursday or Friday. And we'll have Grace, the producer, notify everyone on social media when our next show will be, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, I'm going to be removed. And if you want to say some closing words, go right ahead.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And this was a difficult discussion. And I just want to encourage other people to speak up, because there are a lot of misdeeds that CPS is doing in New York State. And the only way for people to find out is if we speak up. I'm still here. I'm still okay. So I guess I'm proof that speaking up is okay. So if you'd like to disclose your story on an interview with me, please contact How to Fight CPS and Win, and I'll be happy to interview you. For those of you who have your kids home, give them hugs, and those who don't have your kids with you, my prayers go to you too as well. Thank you so much, and have a great day.